Hello and welcome. Today we're going to walk you through how to create a rule-based flow auxiliary. We're also going to have a look a bit deeper on the different parameters that you can pick from when you create one as well. The first thing that we're going to do is navigate to the administration section. So make sure you have access to the administration section. Go down to general information and click on rule-based flow auxiliary. What we're going to do here is that we're going to click on new. And what we're going to do here is pick also the company in question that we're interested in creating this rule-based flow auxiliary for. So I'm going to use this company 10. We're going to have a quick look also at the different types of documents that you can pick from here. You can have external invoice. You can pick internal invoice if you have some specific customizations. You can have it for budget requests as well. If you use this option, the default flow proposal from the requisitioner's role will be replaced by this rule-based flow auxiliary role that's added here. An expense is used for adding an auxiliary role in expense, then that module. And also the requisition used for adding an auxiliary role for the buyer module. And when using this option, the default flow proposal from that requisitioner's role is then also replaced by the rule-based flow role that you then add in this auxiliary. In the different events, there are 4 different events. There is before flow starts, active in flow, after flow before final sign, and after final approval. They all cater to different needs, and the before the flow starts means that when it's in the invoice log and whenever you click on transfer, that is when this rule will then apply and get into effect. You cannot actually see if there is a flow auxiliary for the flow in the invoice log itself. It happens when you click on transfer. For budget requests and requisitions, the flow is replaced by the role from the set rule. And this can be used for all types of documents. If it is active in flow, this means that a flow auxiliary can be added anywhere at all in the flow, depending on if these conditions are met that are present here in the rule-based flow auxiliary. And when you click on save or add for an active invoice account posting, or when you click on OK when you do an accrual or deferral, or if you click asset as well on an account posting line, then a flag is set on the account posting line, which means that you can only trigger a rule-based flow auxiliary once for that account posting line that is active in the flow, but you can trigger several active rules on one and the same invoice. What we then take a look at is after the flow and before final sign. It means that when an invoice is signed by the last role in the flow, and it is the last role, this rule-based flow auxiliary can then add a specific flow proposal that you specify here, and it will then be added inside that flow. And when using this event, the role will be added before any final controls are done as well. Like here, it will still be possible to have a default account or unsigned lines. You can only use this on the internal and external invoices. And the final one, after final approval, it means that it will the invoice is first checked against any rules for flow auxiliary, and an auxiliary role is added if there is such a rule. So the last check in the flow is the check against the setting role for checking, and it is in the company settings beneath administration and register. And you add this role if such a role has been specified for that specific company. And you cannot use this on the budget request type of document, but the others are fine. So if you want this to be for one specific vendor, meaning that you only want that specific vendor's invoices to be subject to the rule, you pick one here. You will click on vendor and you will click on search. You will pick the one in question and you click on select, and this will be for those invoices for that specific vendor. Item type means that you can search for and specify the item type to be covered by the rule. Same thing goes for expense type. You would do a similar fashion where you search for it and pick the one you need. Currency, you can select a specific currency for it to check such that only a certain invoice currency is to be checked. So for example, you can pick, if it's only going to be euro, for example, you can pick that one. And you can specify if it's going to be blocked or not, meaning that the rule is to check whether the invoice is marked as payment stopped or if it isn't. If you go down here to accounts, and you can see a few different objects here as well. Here you would choose to enter only specific accounts that you want this rule to be applied to, and or objects, or a range of these. And that's what you type in here. So let's say I only want it for this account, I can specify that here. Or if you know that it has a specific object, you can also search and maybe include this specific call center in this case. I will leave it blank for now. You can look at the tax code on the invoice header, meaning that you can search for and specify the VAT code on invoice header to be covered by the rule. Same thing goes for the tax code on the account posting line. You can decide if this rule is to be, yes, if you want a role to be inserted when an invoice is distributed across several periods. And it happens when you click on distribution in that column for an account posting line on the actual invoice. If you wanted to deal with re-invoice, you click yes here if you want a role to be inserted when an invoice is to be re-invoiced. This is done when you click on to be re-invoiced on an account posting line. Asset, you can pick yes if you want the role to be inserted when an invoice is flagged as referring to an asset. And this is done by clicking on the asset column for an account posting line. The purchase order invoice, here you pick yes if you want the role to be inserted when it's matched to an order, basically. Same thing goes for credit. If you want it only for credit invoices, you click yes here. If you want an amount check to be used, for example, if you want it to be less than 10 Swedish crowns in this case, you want that rule to be a trigger, you can pick so here. Or if you want it to be greater than 10 crowns, for example, you do that. Or if you want it to be equal to, you can pick that as well. And the system currency here in parentheses is the one in question. I'm going to pick not used in this case, and I'm going to ignore it, have it 0. So here we come down to what actually happens when these conditions are met above. So what we would do is that we can either pick a flow proposal that's added here, or we can pick a role. And it's done in the same fashion as the other ones, where we've searched for specific values and included them. You would click on flow proposal, you would click on search, you would pick the flow proposal that you would want, and you would add it here. But do note that you cannot have both of these inserted here. You can pick either flow proposal or a role. So in this case, I might want to have a role inserted, which is HR, and I will click select. And if you want a manager role to be added to a flow, you would then click yes. And what that would then do is that the manager role to a specific role that's added here, in this specific instance, the HR, then the manager role would then be included as well if this HR role does not have sufficient authorization amount. What would happen when I click no here, I do not want that to be the case, but I want it to be before the flow starts for this specific vendor, and I wanted HR to be included as a role. I would just simply click save. And after that, you have created your first rule-based flow auxiliary. And that's how easy that was. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.